I had a friend of mine that died of cancer growing up. So it was exciting. And when I was making the physical transformation, I concentrated on how he actually looked to me.
This was a transformation that nearly broke him physically, pushed him to the brink mentally, and yet, somehow, set the stage for one of the most dominant second acts in entertainment history. To understand why Curtis Jackson would risk his health for a movie career, we have to rewind to where it all started. In 2011, 50 Cent began working on a project called All Things Fall Apart. Unlike most actors who simply take a role and show up to set, this was his project from the ground up. He wrote it, he produced it, he even helped finance it through his own company, Cheetah Vision. The movie told the story of Deion Barnes, a star college football player whose NFL dreams are cut short when he's diagnosed with cancer. It's a gut-wrenching role, the kind that could easily lean on makeup, loose clothing, and a bit of movie magic to show the illness taking hold. But 50 Cent didn't want movie sick. He wanted to make it real. And there was a reason. Growing up in Queens, one of his closest friends died from cancer. He remembered the hospital visits, the changes in appearance, the toll it took not just on the body, but on the spirit. That memory haunted him. So when the chance came to portray a similar story, he didn't just want to act it, he wanted to live it.
My best friend growing up died of cancer, and the character in this actual film I created, someone who went through similar portions of the actual story. It helped me be emotional in different scenes because I actually was, challenged with it in that way.
Here's the crazy part. The director never asked for it. The script didn't require it. There was nothing in his contract about changing his body. This was all 50's idea. For most people, that would have been a hard no. But for him, it was the only way.
Wash up yet? Oh, shit.
Now, the fastest way to destroy a body is to stop feeding it while burning it out. This is what 50 Cent did, and the transformation plan was brutally simple. Step 1. Run on a treadmill every single day for 3 hours. Not 30 minutes, not even 90, 3 hours. He'd start with a run, then slow to a walk when fatigue hit, but he never stopped moving. Step 2. Adopt a liquid-only diet. That meant protein shakes, coconut water, and unsweetened juice. No solid food, no cheat days, no exceptions. His calorie intake plummeted to dangerously low levels, forcing his body to burn fat first, then muscle.
I was on liquids. So I started with the cayenne and lemon and cayenne.
That diet,
Yeah, and then that got a little bit, after the first week, it was too tough for me to stick with that.
Yeah. And you weren't working out, obviously, because you wanted to lose any body muscle.
Yeah, but I was doing cardio training.
Really?
And then after, my energy level started to drop as I started to lose some of the weight, so I was speed walking.
Within weeks, his appearance changed dramatically. The man who had once been built like a linebacker was disappearing before everyone's eyes. His cheeks were hollow, his collarbones sharp, his arms stringy. But the toll wasn't just visual. He became lightheaded constantly. The hunger was relentless. He later admitted, "I was starving. I had to discipline myself not to eat." The temptation to break the plan was everywhere, but every time it hit, he reminded himself why he was doing it.
It's an interesting project. I mean, considering cancer, 1 out of 8 people in the world die of cancer, topping malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV together. So,
when the transformation was complete, he had gone from 214 pounds to just 160. That's 54 pounds gone in only 9 weeks, an extreme cut for anyone. But for a man naturally built like 50 Cent, it was jaw-dropping.
Well, I think a lot of people were shocked when we opened up some magazines and saw that you had lost all this weight, 60 pounds, for a role. You're playing the role of a football player with cancer, right?
Yeah.
How long did it take you to lose 60 pounds doing that?
9 weeks.
Wow, that's hard on the body.
The first photos leaked online, and instantly, the internet went wild. Some fans thought it had to be fake. Others claimed it was Photoshop. And of course, the memes came rolling in. Out of context, the images looked bizarre, and people who didn't know the backstory were quick to turn them into jokes. This was 2011, before celebrity transformations became marketing stunts. He didn't post a flashy YouTube blog about it. He didn't partner with a brand for behind-the-scenes content. It was done quietly, almost secretly, until the film's release. And yet, when those pictures hit, they became the most talked about part of the movie.
What does it feel like to be shot? Is it a physical feeling?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt as much as people imagine it hurts because of your adrenaline and how the shock of what's actually going on. It hurts after.
Where were you shot? Which part of the body? Where did the bullet
Oh, man, I got shot in my hand. My thumb came out my hand, my face, and out the tooth.
Wow, oh my goodness, there's a hole there.
Yeah, it kind of changed my voice too, and this is the voice that sells 8 million records, so I think everything happens for a reason.
We all remember the 9 bullet wounds that didn't break him, but for most people, surviving 9 gunshots would be the ultimate test of toughness. In 2000, Curtis Jackson was sprayed with bullets at close range. He was hit in the face, the chest, the legs, almost everywhere. The fact that he even lived was miraculous, and his recovery was grueling. Surgeries, weeks in the hospital, then months of rehabilitation just to speak and move normally again. So how could losing weight for a movie possibly compare? 50 himself has said it. The physical and mental grind of his All Things Fall Apart transformation was, in many ways, worse. Getting shot was an act of violence that happened in a moment. It was shocking, yes, but there was no choice involved. One day he was fine, the next he was fighting for his life. But this was voluntary. This was him waking up every single morning and deciding, today, I'm going to starve myself. Today, I'm going to run until my body screams at me to stop. Today, I'm going to get weaker on purpose. The hunger wasn't a background annoyance, it was constant. His head would spin, his body would shake. Sleep didn't help because even in his dreams, he thought about food. The smell of someone else's meal on set could throw him off mentally, and unlike recovering from an injury, there was no promise of getting better the next day. He had to keep going deeper into the discomfort. Psychologically, it was a battle of identity. Curtis Jackson had spent years building a reputation as a strong, dominant, almost untouchable figure. Muscles, presence, intimidation was all part of his brand. And now, day by day, he was watching that image dissolve in the mirror. His clothes no longer fit. His reflection no longer matched the man the world knew. And yet, that was the point. This wasn't just about playing a character, it was about tearing down every comfort zone he'd built and proving to himself and to Hollywood that he could endure anything. That kind of discipline isn't glamorous. There's no cheering crowd when you're alone in your kitchen drinking another bland protein shake instead of eating dinner. There's no applause when you stumble off a treadmill with your legs burning. And when you start feeling your ribs with your own hands and realizing how much muscle you've lost, you start to question if it's worth it. For 50 Cent, the answer was always yes. Every hunger pang, every dizzy spell, every day of watching his body waste away, it all became a mental war he refused to lose. And in his mind, that was harder than getting shot because this time, he was the one pulling the trigger on his own comfort. Even with his iron will, there were moments when 50 Cent wanted to quit. When the treadmill felt endless, when the hunger was a gnawing pain he couldn't ignore, and when his body screamed for a break, he had to find something to remind himself why he started. That's when he began studying some of Hollywood's most extreme physical transformations. Actors who had pushed their bodies to the brink for the sake of their roles, and in doing so cemented their names in cinema history. He looked at Christian Bale, who for The Machinist dropped to a shocking 120 pounds.
Hey, perfect fit.
Surviving on little more than black coffee, an apple, and a can of tuna per day. Bale's hollow frame became the physical embodiment of his character's insomnia and paranoia, and it's still regarded as one of the most dangerous transformations ever attempted in film.
Denying yourself food really kind of puts you in a bizarre mental state. And that's exactly where I'm going to be, you know? So it's actually been very helpful for, my performance.
Then there was Robert De Niro, who didn't just put on muscle for Raging Bull, he also gained over 60 pounds to play the older retired Jake LaMotta.
Well, the weight, of course, was difficult. After the first 15 pounds, it's just work. And a doctor was monitoring it, so cholesterol and things like that. But it was hard.
He trained as a real boxer, fought in real matches, and then packed on weight to show the toll years of excess had taken on the fighter. It wasn't just acting, it was living the character's entire physical arc. 50 also studied Tom Hanks, who for Philadelphia shed weight to portray a man battling AIDS, then years later with Castaway, isolated himself and transformed into a sunburnt, skeletal version of himself to sell the desperation of being stranded on an island. Hanks himself has said the toll on his health from these drastic changes was real, and doctors warned him about long-term effects. These weren't just performances, they were sacrifices, and to 50 Cent, they set a standard. If Bale could live on almost nothing for months, if De Niro could balloon and shrink for authenticity, if Hanks could endure isolation and malnutrition for a role, then 50 could keep running, keep starving, and keep going. But it wasn't just about matching their commitment. It was about proving he belonged in that conversation. These were actors known for full immersion, for making you forget you were watching a performance at all. That's what 50 wanted. Not to be a rapper trying to act, but an actor who happened to come from hip-hop, willing to go as far as anyone in the game to tell a story.
The starving himself journey wasn't enough. The film had another fight to win. And while 50 was pushing his body to its limits, the production itself was facing challenges. The original title for the movie was Things Fall Apart, but the estate of Nigerian author Chinua Achebe, who wrote the classic novel of the same name, objected. That forced a name change to All Things Fall Apart. The movie premiered at the Miami International Film Festival and co-starred Ray Liotta and Lynn Whitfield. But without a major distributor, it never got a wide theatrical release. Instead, it went to cable and direct-to-video. All Things Fall Apart didn't win any awards. It didn't catapult him into Oscar contention. And for someone who had just risked everything physically, it could have been a crushing disappointment. But for 50, the lack of commercial success didn't erase what the project meant to him personally. The internet still used the transformation photos as memes. Out of context, they look strange. But for those who knew the story, they were a testament to commitment and discipline.
The story helped me be emotional in different scenes because I actually was, challenged with it in that way.
When filming All Things Fall Apart came to a conclusion, 50 Cent didn't just walk away with a finished movie. He walked away with proof. Proof that he could push himself beyond comfort. Proof that discipline beats doubt. Proof that he could commit to something long-term and see it through, no matter how much it hurt. And that mindset didn't stay in the gym or the film set. It became the foundation of his next big move, one that would change his career more than any album or acting role ever could. 50 pivoted to television, not just as an actor, but as a producer and creator. In 2014, he launched Power on Starz. On paper, it was a gritty crime drama about James, or Ghost, St. Patrick, a nightclub owner leading a double life as a drug kingpin. In reality, it was the start of a cultural phenomenon. From the start, 50 treated Power like he had treated that weight loss transformation, with relentless dedication. He didn't just appear in the credits. He was deeply involved in casting, storylines, marketing, and even the soundtrack. He promoted the show like a mixtape, hands-on, constant, unfiltered. He leveraged social media, fan engagement, and strategic controversy to keep people talking. The result? Power became one of Starz' highest-rated shows ever, dominating ratings for 6 seasons and spawning multiple spin-offs: Power Book 2 Ghost, Power Book 3 Raising Kanan, and Power Book 4 Force. Instead of one hit, he'd built a franchise. But he didn't stop there. He brought the same energy to BMF, the Black Mafia family, telling the true story of a Detroit drug empire and the brothers who ran it. Again, he nailed the casting, the tone, the authenticity, and the show became another critical and fan hit. Then came For Life, a legal drama based on the story of Isaac Wright Jr., a man wrongfully imprisoned who becomes a lawyer and fights to overturn his own conviction. It was different from the crime sagas, more grounded in legal drama, but it still carried 50's stamp: perseverance against impossible odds. Behind the scenes, he was applying the same principles he'd lived by during his transformation. Curtis Jackson went from being the rapper who lost 50 pounds for a movie to one of the most successful multi-show producers in television. He had carved out a corner of the industry where his name guaranteed attention, and more often than not, ratings gold. the same discipline that got him through hours on the treadmill and weeks of hunger, now had him building an empire brick by brick. And just like with that transformation, he wasn't doing it for short-term applause. He was building something that would last. In the end, All Things Fall Apart didn't rewrite Hollywood's opinion of Curtis Jackson overnight. It didn't land him an Oscar, nor did it become a box office smash, but it did something far more important. It showed the world, and perhaps more importantly himself, that he was willing to endure extraordinary pain for a vision he believed in. The photos that once became meme material now stand as evidence of grit, loyalty, and relentless work ethic. Because that transformation wasn't just a stunt, it was a declaration, a statement that he wasn't afraid to destroy the version of himself the world thought they knew in order to become something greater. That mindset, the ability to take on punishing challenges without guaranteed reward, is the same one that allowed him to pivot from music to television and dominate an entirely different industry. It's the same mindset that turns risks into franchises, setbacks into stepping stones, and doubts into fuel. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson's legacy isn't just in the records sold or the shows produced. It's in the way he's repeatedly bet on himself, even when the odds were stacked high and the payoff uncertain. Sometimes the most valuable wins aren't the ones the world celebrates loudly. They're the ones you fight for in silence, the ones that leave you changed forever, and the ones that prove to you, and to everyone watching, that you can survive the impossible and build something even greater from it.